Nick, thank you so much for joining us. For anyone who might be watching on Facebook now or in the future after this moment, this is a segment of the Study Abroad Fair during the spring 2021 semester. My name is McKenna. I'm the Education Abroad Coordinator here at the University of Montana, and I'm joined by Nicolas Munoz, who is an alumni to our Study Abroad office. He studied abroad in 2019, 2020, and I'll kind of let you speak for yourself. I do just want to say that Nick is one of 4 student ambassadors that we have in our office for this semester. The Student Ambassadors Program is a great time, a great opportunity for University of Montana students to learn from their fellow peers about the locations they've studied abroad in. This is a great opportunity to ask questions, whether specifically about the culture or the language or even the specific school that our students have gone to. So definitely utilize these volunteers as resources. They are all wonderful students, and we are so happy to have their willingness to represent their programs. So with that, this is kind of an informal Q&A with Nick today. I will have him present a little bit about his experiences in Germany for the full year. He is actually still in Germany right now, so thank you so much for joining us so late in the evening. And after that, I'll just ask some questions. And if anyone on Facebook wants to ask questions, I'll keep my eye out for those. And if anyone joins us in the Zoom meeting, we'll make sure to address any questions they might have as well. So with that, I hand over the floor, the virtual floor, to you, Nick. And thank you once more for being with us today.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here, and I'm just happy to talk about and share my experience while abroad and while still being abroad. But yeah, let me pull up my screen here real quick, and then yeah. So yeah, I'm Nick. I did my study abroad from 2019 to 2020 in Dortmund, Germany, at the Technische Universität Dortmund here. It's in the Ruhr-Rhine area of Germany, which is it's the most populated part of Germany with like around 10 million people in the metropolitan area. Oh, and I should say that, yeah, I'm a geography major, so I had to include a map in this. It was a key thing I had to make sure to include. But yeah, so I was studying here, and it was this is the Ruhrpott region, and it has about 10 million people. And also, kind of fun little fact, it's part of a thing called the Blue Banana in Germany, which is a corridor of just highly populated urban area along this part of Europe with about 111 million people. So going from Montana, which is a state just a little bit bigger than Germany with 1 million people, to a metropolitan area with 10 million people is quite a shocker. And so, yeah, it's really just going from one extreme from rural to urban. And yeah, yeah, I studied at TU Dortmund. To be honest, I don't have too many pictures of myself with Dortmund. It's a it's kind of a gray town. It's not the prettiest town, but it's definitely not the ugliest. It has some character to it, I have to say. But yeah, in the top left picture, you can see the university there, and yeah, it's modern, and yeah, but yeah, there's some beautiful parts, and it has some greenery. It's actually the greenest city in Germany, I think, with like the most trees and yeah, just green area within it. But yeah, it cool fact, it also has the largest Christmas tree in the world during Christmas. So that's fun to check out, especially check out the Christmas markets around downtown. And this picture here is it's probably my least favorite part in Dortmund. It's the foreigner's office. If you study in Dortmund, you'll become very familiar with this place, and it's something we'll discuss later on, because I had some trouble there and some fun times. But yeah. Oh, what question should we start off with?
Great photos. I have not made it to Dortmund, but I've definitely heard about the soccer hype up there. Did you get to make it to a soccer game at all?
Yeah, so I got matched up with I can't remember what it's called, but it's like they call it something like my German buddy, which is a TU Dortmund student that they match up with you. And he had season tickets there, and he took me to a game. And uh, if you study in Dortmund, you got to go see this. I mean, it was an experience that I couldn't. I don't know. It's hard to explain. You just walk out there and you see the flags, the chanting, the people jumping up and down, and yeah, it's just really incredible experience.
I have to ask, did you see any German flags, whether in flag form or in people's appearances at that experience? Because I hear, and I also experienced on my own, that that is one of the few times that Germans are prideful about their country's colors.
Mhm. I didn't see it specifically during the soccer game. It was mostly just like the team colors. But I think at the time, I can't remember, is either the European Champions League going on, and so you had soccer clubs from France playing there or something like that. And I believe I remember people waving German flags during then. But if it was like just a Bundesliga or national clubs playing, then it was just the team colors and no German flags waving around.
Sure, that does make absolute sense. I imagine those come out when other countries are involved more so, but that's always
Mhm.
something I was most curious about. I never made it to a soccer game when I was in Karlsruhe. I got to admit, I wasn't planning and thinking ahead enough to go to a soccer game. And once I left, I was like, oh, shoot, like that was the one thing I should have done. But I'm curious if we can transition kind of to the academia side. What made you choose TU Dortmund?
So within my degree at UM, they have an option for community and environmental planning, which just like means like urban planning or rural planning within like a city kind of sense. And at TU Dortmund, they have the largest urban planning department in Europe, and so it's about like 2,500 students within that single department, and it's just kind of like a key I don't know, educational focus at this university. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up at TU Dortmund. And yeah.
Absolutely understandable. I think this might be the case for some students, hopefully less and less. That's my priority moving forward. But when I knew that I wanted to study abroad in Germany, I kind of stumbled upon ISEP and I saw the German programs in ISEP and then I just ran with it. Did you know all of your options for Germany between partner and ISEP, or did you only really know about partner at the time? I'm curious. I'm asking this because I'm curious if you knew all of your options in Germany or if you only knew about the one side.
I'm pretty sure that, yeah, I looked at both the partner and the ICEP options, and I spent quite a lot of time doing my research and looking at every single one. Okay, what do they have this? And then if you're looking at ICEP, they'll have like things like kind of like what the school's known for. But it's also good to go look at the university website itself and look within their department because a, a university that doesn't display having this type of, say, a planning department might not have it on the ICEP page because those things get missed sometimes. So it's good to look at the university's webpage as well. But yeah, by the time I chose TU Dortmund, I it was like pretty much figured out. Okay, this is like one of my top options to go to.
Awesome. That's really helpful for me to hear and to know. And it's wonderful that you spend so much time doing research and looking into all of the details as they were relevant for you. Not everyone has enough time to do so, or there's a lot you don't think about until you're somewhat through the process. But it sounds like it was a really good fit. So that's great to hear. There are some terms you threw out that I've never heard before, specifically the blue banana. I've never heard of
Yeah,
that before. Is that a geography
yeah,
student term?
it's a geography student term, and I was like, oh, I'm going to the blue banana, and
Uh,
so yeah, it was kind of fun. Yeah.
I will never forget that for as long as I live now. That's wonderful. Also, the largest Christmas tree, did you say in the world or in Europe?
Uh, I think when they told me it was in the world, but it's like I don't know how true that is. Um, but yeah, it's mostly like it's not one Christmas tree; it's a bunch of Christmas trees put together And so it looks like a single one, but I don't know, maybe there's like 20 different trees there, and they kind of stack them up together, and it is
Well,
big.
it certainly looks big. Yes. Anyone out there, I know I include myself in this realm and it's so embarrassing. It's such a touristy thing. But when it comes to superlatives, when it your sightseeing and all of that, I love it. The world's largest mining museum is in Bochum, Germany. And those kind of things, it's more exciting when you get to see them and experience them. So, largest Christmas tree, definitely will have to keep that on your list out there if that interests you. And I'd be curious how it compares to the Rockefeller tree. That'll be something I have to look into.
Uh,
So, since you have the picture up already, Nick, do you want to touch on that story you were referring to earlier about your good and fun experiences in this
uh,
building?
so yeah, this building here is the Ausländerbehörde. It's the foreigner's office. This is where you will take care of like all your visa, residency permit stuff, and it's a very important part, like at the beginning of your study abroad. And what'll happen is it's a very crowded place during normal hours, and so the university will reserve a specific time for your university students only um, to go in the office and get things done. And if when you do this, you make sure you get it all done. Because when we went, we had a specific time slot, but there was too many students. And so there were a few that didn't get their paperwork filled out. And in my case, I filled it out and submitted it. But for some reason, they lost one of the pieces of my paperwork. And so I had to go back there during the normal hours. And so you had to get up at like 4 in the morning, wait in line at like 5 in the morning. And by the time you get there, there's already a huge line. And they open the doors, and it's like the most like primal thing. People start like pushing and like running through the door, and you're like, oh my god, what the heck is going on? And then you have to wait in another line. And I remember I had to get a stamp, but I didn't. Yeah, anyway, the guy comes to me and asks why I'm there in German, and at the time my German wasn't good. And then he kicked me out for not speaking German and told me to come back with the translator. And that was just all sorts of like just a headache. And I ended up coming back with the translator, and all I needed was a stamp on my paper. So when you do this, just try to get it all done. But if it doesn't work out, reach out, talk to the international students office at TU. They will help you out, or international office at whatever university you're at. Or if you have a friend that speaks German there that you made already, and they can help you out, because once you're by yourself, it is significantly harder to get the process done. But yeah.
Good gracious, that definitely sounds like it was a scary, frustrating headache. Did you have to schedule an appointment ahead of time that second time you visited, or did you just attempt to walk in? How did that work?
You had to attempt to walk in. I don't think there was at this Ausländerbehörde any appointments that you could set at least ahead of time for this type of I don't know, paperwork that I had to get done. Here where I'm at in Munich now works a bit differently and more efficiently, I would say, is you have to have an appointment. They meet you at a specific time, and it's a little bit more organized. But yeah, the foreigner's office in TU is a little bit more loosey goosey kind of. Yeah. So it
Wow.
depends on where you are.
Very different experience for sure. I'm so surprised to hear a lot of what you are describing. In Karlsruhe, it was very, I don't want to say isolated. There were not very many people. It was a not well populated office. I remember being in this big building almost entirely alone. They made you sign up for an appointment ahead of time, and I got a letter in the mail weeks later stating this is your date and this is your exact time. Make sure you're 15 minutes early. I walked into the building. There was one person I could ask for directions. I took a number. It was very much so like the DMV in the United
Hmm.
States. Anymore, you take a number from a machine and you wait for your number to appear on the screen that's in the room. And I just kind of tried to follow signage, walked into a room at the right time, very much so similar that they just kind of speak German to you. And depending on your level of German, it's very intimidating, or perhaps it's easier. It was intimidating for me for sure. And you just kind of nod and stay silent and try to answer questions if they ask them. But once you get that stamp of approval, then you're basically good to go. But the visa process, that residence permit for American students in Germany, it's definitely unique.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that your experience wasn't the most clear cut and effortless as they sometimes are.
Hmm.
But now you have really good advice to help students and also yourself, having stayed in Munich all this time, for how to encounter those issues in the future. So hopefully that's a silver lining.
That was definitely a good learning process, kind of pushed into the deep end in a way. And so I feel pretty confident about navigating the whole visa process now. But
I
yeah.
bet. I bet. On that topic, Nick, is there something else that comes to mind in German culture, having been there now, gee, over a year, right? You've been there over a year?
Yep, I've been here over a year now. German culture.
Is there anything
Uh,
else in German culture that you've been like, whoa, that was an adjustment?
um, hmm. I mean, I guess like the stereotypical thing is like the German directness, which takes some getting used to at first. But after a while, you begin to appreciate it. It's more like clear cut, it's efficient. Like, okay, they say this, and it just gets to the point. And I feel like for myself, I've become more direct while being here. Um, but there's also times where the German directness is kind of like, I don't know, it's a little bit harsh. It's a little bit different than in America. We put a little bit nicer tone on things, say when giving criticism or something like that. So yeah, but I would say it's mostly a thing I've come to like more than something that bothers me. But yeah,
I'm glad to
um,
hear that.
uh, other than that, I would say Germans have this really good sense of being environmentally aware. There's just this more, I don't know, it's more of a presence in everyday life within society and how people act. And one of the first things that I was told is here's where you take your glass recycling, here's where you take the plastic, and just the whole process with that. And yeah, and it's something I thought was really cool. And it's just something that's really ingrained here. And yeah.
You've touched on many good things. Yes, I remember when I was a student, I was in this cross cultural competence class, and we had to do a research paper on culture in general. And I chose politeness in German culture because I don't know if it's entirely an American thing, but most certainly a Montanan thing, that we really sugarcoat stuff in comparison. So, and by stuff, I mean requests, the way we talk, the way we act. And I was very just fascinated. But there were days where I was like, whoa, that's a lot of directness in the German culture. But you grow to love that just because you get exactly what is being said.
Yeah.
There's not too much to dig through.
Hmm.
Yes. The other thing you touched on was recycling. Absolutely. Germany is one of, I don't have statistics about this, but in my opinion, they're one of the most environmentally conscious countries out there. And the recycling is very intensive. If you had to start all over again, is there something you wish you would have known ahead of time about that recycling system?
Yeah, so there's one thing it's called fund. It's where if you take a plastic or glass bottle, you can take it back to the store and get a refund for a certain amount, like 8 cents, 25 cents. I mean, you have to pay this kind of thing when you say buy something glass or plastic and it's put on your receipt, and then you bring the bottles back to get that money back. Um, and At the local store near my dorm, it wasn't obvious where the glass return thing was, so I thought there wasn't one there, and I didn't realize until like, and so I just put it in the normal like glass recycling, and I didn't realize that you had to go to this special section, and so like for like a whole year, I missed out on, I don't know, maybe I had like 50 euros that just went down the drain because I didn't know that the glass was that they did the glass there, and so yeah, that's one thing I wish I could have changed. Know exactly where all these places are. Uh,
That's great advice. Until you get over there and learn the pond system and realize that it exists, it's very easy to look past and just continue living your life how you're used to. But whenever you have a plastic bottle, oh my gosh, it's something I miss so much about Germany. You knew that you were returning it into a recycling system. These days, if you happen to find a recycling container for our plastic in the United States, great. It's
yeah.
not as common that you know where to find those things. So a beautiful system. Then the
Hmm.
receipt that you get with the printed refund, you can use that on your groceries. You can get a really cheap chocolate bar, etc. It's a wonderful system. It's very well thought out. I would love if the United States developed something similar.
Yeah, same here.
You mentioned that you lived in a student dormitory. I love hearing students' stories about their accommodation because not all universities have the opportunity for on campus housing. Oh, and I'm sorry, I don't mean
Mhm.
to cut ahead. So if
No,
you
no, 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 no worries. No. Um, but yeah, sorry. What were you saying?
I was really just curious, what was dormitory style life like in Germany? I was in a private apartment, so there really wasn't the dormitory style that I was kind of expecting as an American. I'm curious, I don't know if you lived in dorms here in Montana, so if you have any compare contrast to offer, or just in general what your experience was like.
I didn't live in the dorms at UM, but I don't know. I had friends that lived in them, so I kind of have some sort of idea how they were, um, and like that you, yeah. Anyway, so I have an idea about it, but at Dortmund, so the one I had one roommate, but you could have up to like five roommates depending on the building, or you could have your own single kind of like apartment thing, but share a bathroom with a different person. Um, but yeah, in this case, oh, whoops. Um, yeah, so I just had one roommate, and what was I going to say on that? That's something important to totally escaped my mind. Um, what was it? Yeah, so I had one roommate, and
It's late
Right.
at night for you, so I understand.
um, but so you get there, and depending on the who was there before and what they left behind, that's basically kind of like your kitchen stuff. For us, we had not too many cups. We had a lot of plates. We had some spoons. We had a wok. But other people had like a microwave. They had a ton of plates. They had a ton of bowls, a ton of kitchenware. So it was kind of like a crapshoot on what stuff you needed to buy afterwards after you got there. But like the living conditions were good. It was very comfortable. You have pretty much everything you need. One thing that surprised me, and they didn't tell us about this beforehand until it just showed up, is that you had cleaning ladies that came in and cleaned like once a week. And I remember, yeah, I was just like in the bathroom, and then all of a sudden this lady walks in, and I'm just sitting there on the toilet, like, what the heck is going on? And yeah, that's how I found out we had cleaning ladies. But yeah, they come in like once a week and sweep the floors and everything. And yeah, so that was kind of a shocker. Um, yeah, other than that, the dorms were nice. Oh, kind of a weird thing compared to UM is they had dormitory bars, like student bars at the dorms. And so that's something you just wouldn't find in the US. And so they you just like they'd be open on certain days, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, depending on the dorm, and all the students would meet up there and go have a party there. And yeah, that was fun. Kind of loud, but fun. Uh,
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. It's so fun listening to these stories. It really floods in memories on my end of how things were. I didn't live with any roommates. I was in a small, singular, tiny apartment. It had its own bathroom, a really tiny kitchenette, and enough room for a bed and a tiny desk. And I remember when I arrived, there was no shower curtain, there was no soap, there was no toilet paper, bare minimum. So you never know what you're going to get. I did splurge and I got myself a toaster because I attempted the making toast in a pan thing and it wasn't working
Oh.
for me. But luckily, items like that are accessible. You can find them at affordable rates as a student in Germany. So thank goodness for that. And if
Hmm.
you live with other people, that helps as well.
Yeah. And at TU, they did a day where they took you like to IKEA and stuff to pick things up, and so it was nice. It was they took you out, okay, pick up everybody what you need, and then head back to the dormitory. And so yeah, it was. I thought that was really nice that they did that.
That's great to hear, Nick. I'm so glad that TUD is so supportive of their students. It helps a lot when you're brand new there until you know people and know locals and know the location of shops and which shops you even like. All of that takes time. So, having a support network at the very beginning is crucial.
Mhm.
I love seeing the German style windows. I'll never forget. I
Oh
didn't know
yeah.
how those worked. So when I arrived, I didn't know that they opened two ways. And for the life of me, not sure how, I managed to accidentally open my window one of the first few nights I was in Germany, both ways. And then I could not close it. So for a few days, my window was just stuck open. Luckily, it was warm weather, but I was just so confused.
uh, yeah, they're really really awesome things. I wish they would adapt that over here. Super nice.
Absolutely. They're fantastic windows. Oh, well, I know I'm really curious about the slide we skipped. Would you be okay with going back? I'm
Oh,
sure you have stories
um,
on those.
yeah, it was just some of the students, international students that were there when I was there. Up here, this was my uh, intensive German course. So they had a month-long intensive German course before the official semester started, and yeah, and it was a good group of people, and we all got to become really close through that before the semester. And my roommate was right up there. He's from Japan. Then we had people from the U.S., Korea, Italy, all over the place, Brazil, and yeah, it's just some fun pictures and memories I thought I would like to share. Yeah.
Lovely. One of the best things about being an international student is not only do you get to familiarize with the native local culture by all means, but I can't think of a location where you won't meet other international students. So that's a huge component to the entire experience.
Yeah, and I'd say like most of the time, most of your friends and the people that you get to know the best are going to be the other international students because they're in the same position. They get there and everyone's like they don't know each other, and they're like, we can be friends. Let's get to know each other. Like and just try to get settled down. And so yeah, everyone. I don't know. As an international student, you kind of you bond with other internationals pretty quick. Yeah.
Absolutely. Orientation is a big moment. You don't want to skip it. That's where you meet the other people in your shoes.
Mhm.
So, you mentioned the bar that was connected to your dormitory, and now we're kind of shifting into student life. I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit more to how you would describe student life in Germany. In the United
Mhm.
States, we tend to take for granted the student services that are available on campus and all of the student groups we have. When I went to Germany, I was at a really small private international school. It's actually not even available through ISEP anymore. And so actually, there really weren't many student clubs or anything that I could join at that school. So I hope it was different at TU Dortmund. It's a little bit bigger, I'm sure. Anything you'd like to say on those thoughts?
Yeah, I didn't really sense like a club or like kind of university like, group club atmosphere type ordeal. Like there isn't any lumberjack balls from the forestry department. There's no study abroad fair. Um, I mean, they had some like events for the international students, like we had like a Thanksgiving thing that they put on, but yeah, there wasn't really any club thing or clubs or anything like that. It was like mostly it seemed like the university was just primarily for like, I don't know, just education. And so, I mean, it makes sense, but also it was kind of it kind of missed the atmosphere of the university in the US a bit. I mean, you have your school colors, you got the games going on and stuff, and I don't know, a little bit more, I don't know, university life. I would say U.S. universities compared to German universities. But I remember though during the first week we had introductory week for the planning students, and one thing that was weird that they, well, not weird, but that they wouldn't definitely not do in the US is like they would have like it was like drinking games put on by the department for the students. And like you go around and they have like these tables with beer and they give you shots and you play these games. And I learned how to play funky ball, which is a kind of crazy drinking game. But yeah, it was something so different because yeah, I don't think UM would put on like this a big week long kind of binge drinking event for the students. Um, but it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. I know Germany is stereotypically connected to its culture of alcohol, but when you think about it, they just have a different mindset around the use of alcohol. When their teenagers can start drinking at 16, of course, by the time they get to college, they just have a different perception and a totally different level of control on how much they consume. So it is absolutely a difference in American university culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
On the flip side of that, and I don't want to get ahead in your PowerPoint, so like please let me know if this is something you're going to get to. You might have noticed that the school academia system is also very different than what you're used to here at the University of Montana. So anything that sticks out when you think of how your classes or even professors were different in Germany?
Yeah, there's definitely a difference there. Even from like the process with registration. With UM, you know, you have a registration deadline. You have do it through electronically. You press a button, you're in a class. There it was okay. You met up with the advisor at the urban planning department. He's like, just show up, you know, get there 15 minutes early, make sure you sign the list, and then hopefully there's not too many people there. And it was a bit more loosey goosey about it in that regard. And it was kind of a little bit nerve wracking. And there was some issues with that because too many international students would show up to one class and then yeah, but it all worked out for the most part. But in terms of like a student and teacher relationship, there's definitely kind of like this, I don't know, distant aspect to it. I would say like at I felt you could be more personable with the professors and teachers, and it's more easy to contact them, and I don't know, yeah, just talk. Um, at at the German university, yeah, there's this distance. I don't know. It seemed like it was more hard to communicate with the professor sometimes, and they kind of had like, I don't know, the rule of law in the class, and yeah, it's just not as close. But it's understandable. They also have a lot of students in a huge department as well. But yeah.
Interesting. So to back up a little bit, in order to be part of a class, did you just have to show up and if there was room, then you got in? Is that how that worked?
That's how yeah, it's how it pretty much worked. Yeah, there was no like online registration, and there was one issue because they had too many international students. I don't know. for for the first semester. And so all the classes got all the English speaking classes got full really quick, and then international students were kind of like there was extras, like kind of like they didn't have any classes to enroll, but it ended up getting worked out. But yeah, it was kind of a little bit chaotic and messy at first, and yeah, but it all worked out. But yeah, just
Interesting.
definitely different.
Yes, definitely not the organized cyber bear that you've been used to before. Every university is different, so I can't say that that represents Germany as a whole, but it is understandable that some universities abroad don't have that online system yet, whether through funding or just organization in general. It's different for everyone, but hopefully there's always room for improvement, especially when international students like yourself come over. You can always offer suggestions of, oh, you know, this works really great at my university. That's the beauty of internationalization.
Um, but I have to say one thing. For that was for the urban planning department, but for the German language department at TU, they actually had like a online registration, and I thought I should point that out. Yeah, the German or the language department at TU Dortmund was fantastic. They were super awesome, and really well organized, and yeah, I just thought I'd give them a shout out.
Oh,
So it's not the same throughout the entire university. Yeah.
absolutely. Yes, of course. We don't want to talk TU Dortmund down at all. It sounds like it's different per department a little bit. So that keeps you on your toes, keeps things exciting, I'm sure.
Definitely.
And I'm sure you noticed differences in your classes even. Would you say that you had much homework or tests or quizzes to
Oh,
prepare for?
no, there was no homework. They gave you readings for the week. Well, they gave you readings for the semester you come in, then that's what the professor would talk about. And by the end of the semester, you either have a final exam or a final paper, and that's your grade. There's no homework in between. And so, in one aspect, that's like really nice. I mean, you have no homework. That's great. But then all the pressure comes at the end of the semester, and you're like, oh my God, I have to get this exam done. I have to do well. And so yeah, it's a different kind of pressure. I would say I was told abroad that be prepared for it's going to be no friends.
Alrighty, we accidentally lost Nick there for a second. Gotta love sometimes the internet problems with Zoom. That's okay. What Nick was touching on is the joy of having no homework in Europe. It's a blessing and a curse, depending on how self disciplined you are. Sometimes it means you have a lot more free time. Other times it might mean the opposite, depending on the subject and how well you are at self paced learning. So while it's more or less a blessing, at least in certain ways, it's really important that students, when they go abroad to certain locations such as Germany or other European universities that don't have that strict homework, test, and quiz regimen, that students are still pacing themselves through the class so that they don't experience that end of semester catastrophe feeling. So something else that we hear often from students who go to Germany, some European institutions in general, Nick was just touching on this, and I know I experienced it myself in Germany, and that is the difference in relationships to professors. So my experience actually was more so that the professors were not full-time professors. They were professionals, they were experts within the field that they taught about. And not only did they teach classes, but they were usually working full-time in the industry as well. And it made it very fascinating because then these professors, and I think this can happen in the United States as well, absolutely. And our professors here are experts by all means in their industries, but at the time where you're learning about theory and you're reading textbooks and trying to apply it to the real world, etc., you had these professionals who were able to give right then and there examples and apply the knowledge you were going through to what they may have been going through in their private line of work. So it was really fascinating. I'd be curious if that was Nick's experience as well. Something else that is really different, though, about the European or specifically German professors in this regard and our professors here at the University of Montana is what Nick was touching on, that fact that it's not as easy to approach those professors. There's almost like a wall separating student from professor. And that's different again for everyone. Some professors in Germany will invite their students out for a beer after class. Others, they're there to teach and then they leave. There's not this concept of stop by my office hours. I'm here for you. I'm here to help. I'll answer your emails. That's something maybe also that I can ask Nick about the whole email situation. You might notice if you go abroad to Germany or any other university outside of the United States, other countries don't prioritize written communication always the same way, right? Cultural differences, they're beautiful in their own regard. You get used to these kinds of things, but you also recognize ways in which you take certain aspects of your academic and personal life for advantage. So studying abroad can't be emphasized enough for those reasons, that you really get to experience how education systems around the world compare and contrast to your own. So I'm going to see really quickly if Nick is potentially trying to join again. Quick standby here. All right, so no word from Nick yet. Must have just been one of those internet moments that we all love so dearly where it goes out unexpectedly. Not a problem. Nick, if you can't join any later than this, we've got 10 minutes left and I can wrap us up. Hopefully Nick can join us because he is actually still in Germany, as I mentioned at the beginning. Nick is one of very, very few students that when the pandemic hit really hard in March 2020, Nick was one of our students abroad studying in Dortmund, and he made a petition to stay in Germany while the rest of our students were called home. This was an option for students who felt like they were comfortable staying in a foreign country, given the risks at hand, most specifically the risk that we couldn't guarantee flights back home. There was a lot of chaos in that early pandemic period, as everyone I'm sure can recall. But Nick decided to stick it through. He felt comfortable with that risk, and he is still in Germany today. He is actually taking classes now. He finished his time at Dortmund in the spring 2020 semester and has stayed in Germany taking his classes remotely. So I'm sure Zoom classes and Zoom appointments like this are something he is very used to. If he can join us in the last 10 minutes, I'd love to ask him about the lockdown experience that Germany is going through. I think they're either in their second or third official lockdown now. I would have to double check, but if he returns, we'll ask him about the lockdown experience and how it was being a student abroad during a pandemic and choosing to stay. If he doesn't join us, I'll utilize these last 10 minutes here just to talk on the questions that I would have asked Nick. Since I studied abroad in Germany, I'll be able to give my perspective. And if any of you would like to hear Nick's perspective after this event, definitely please feel free to email him. I'm on the Education Abroad website. This is part of the University of Montana website. We are under the Global Engagement Office. Here we are, this third tab, and I'm on our resources page. We had an event earlier today for the Study Abroad Fair where we talked about identity abroad and resources for diversity. So this is that same section where you'll find those goodies. And I'm now in our Student Ambassadors program. So we currently have 4 student ambassadors that are all representing different areas across the globe. And they are here again to speak to you as students about their time in a certain country, or at their specific university, and just culturally, like Nick and I are talking about today. So the next question I wanted to ask Nick was about the cost and standard of living in Germany. From my experience, German culture is extremely affordable. And when I say German culture, I'm thinking specifically of groceries and travel. As a student, I spent maybe 20 to 30 euros, which is no more than 40 American dollars a week, getting groceries around various supermarkets. They're all roughly the same price. It's not like you have to shop around. So I would say it's very affordable. Nick, are you there? Are you joining again? Perhaps.
So I made it back.
Welcome. I'm so glad you made it back.
My computer just totally shut down on me. I have no idea why.
That's totally okay. I'm glad it wasn't your internet and you're able to jump right back in during our last 10 minutes. I'm so glad. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
That's totally okay. I have made it possible for you to share your screen again if you'd like to.
I'm on a different computer now, so I can't do my PowerPoint again, unfortunately.
That's totally okay. We only have 10 minutes left anyway, so really your stories are what we love hearing. And if you want to share any photos with us down the road, you absolutely can. We can make those available to students. I loved what I saw, so if you want to share them, we'd be so happy to get to see those.
Yeah, I definitely share them on everything.
The last thing you were talking about that I heard is you were just starting to mention the difference in not having homework, but really having to focus on an end of the semester presentation or exam. Was there a thought you can leave us with on those?
Yeah, it just took some getting used to. If I have any recommendations, keep up on those readings, and then don't leave all the studying, as with university in the US as well, don't leave it till the last minute. But yeah, that's all I had to, the rest I had to add to that. But I don't want to interfere if you're in the middle of explaining something on the website or anything, and or interrupt your flow, because I just kind of came back immediately in the middle of that.
Totally fine. I was just speaking about the student ambassadors that are on our website. So I was narrating that if you made it back in, I'd use the last 10 minutes to still talk to you, because I specifically wanted to hear about what you've been through in the last year. You are one of the few University of Montana students who made a petition when our study abroad programs in spring 2020 were suspended, and we called students to get home safely. Flights at the time were very unpredictable. It was understood that only a final few flights would be getting to the United States. So it was a very stressful time, but you chose to stay. I'm curious how that decision came about, as far as, do you regret it? Do you feel happy that you stayed? And what has it been living in Germany during a pandemic since?
I mean, at the time, I was I was dating, and I still am, and I'm now engaged to this German woman, and so at the time, I was very, and still am, like, emotionally invested here, and I saw myself having a future here just in general, and I wanted to stay. I wanted to continue even after the study abroad and move on to another visa. And so there was that aspect of it. And also at the time, it wasn't practical for me. If I had to come back, I didn't have a place to come back to in Missoula. I'd have to go, I don't know, either back to my parents' place in Utah, or yeah. And at the same time, it just wasn't, it wasn't the right decision, because also I didn't have health insurance in the US, because I got off I was at the age where I got off my parents' plan, and it's not the smartest thing to fly back home during a pandemic when you don't have health insurance back back home. It wouldn't have been a good idea. And so there was many reasons why, and I felt that, yeah, as long as I communicated my needs, as to why I want to stay, these are the reasons why, and just like do it as effectively and efficiently as I can, then things would work out. And it did, and I'm glad I stayed, and I'm super happy that I didn't end up having to go back. And yeah, but it was just important to have the communication, not with just but also to you, and be like, can I stay? And so, yeah, but I have to say was really, really awesome in handling it, really structured in this chaotic time, to try and coordinate all of that and have to bring students back. And yeah, so it was good. It went smoothly, I would say. Yeah.
We really appreciate the kindness. I was pretty brand new in the position, so not really knowing all of the students who were abroad on a personal level was a crash course of the sorts.
Yeah, it's like a super big crash course here. Pandemic, all right. Let's really test you to the best of your ability right now. Oh man.
Precisely. So I do have to say, from our end, that you were nothing short of very communicative and professional yourself. So thank you, Nick. It was a very stressful time, and you stayed so patient and calm, at least in your written communication. So that was very kind and appreciated. And now our communication patterns have transitioned so massively. I can't recall knowing about Zoom before Corona hit in full. And if I would have known, we would have had these kind of conversations. We probably would have been able to email a little bit less and get things figured out sooner, but we're learning as we go. This pandemic has definitely outlasted a lot longer than we thought it would, but it sounds like you definitely had very understandable reasons to stay. With the last few minutes we have here, there's two main things I want to ask. What's it like been living abroad as an American during this pandemic? And at the end, is there any advice for students that you can give who are looking into or potentially interested in studying in Germany?
Yeah, those are two good questions. I would say it hasn't been, too crazy being abroad during the pandemic. Of course, there's like different restrictions here going on than in the US. We just got done with a 9 p.m. curfew here in Germany, which was in place for a while, and we had to wear a specific type of mask, and you just couldn't have like the cloth ones or anything like that. but I would say it was strange, but maybe I'm just used to it now. It never felt too overwhelming for in terms of a university and everything. I think part of that is because before I started at I was doing online classes, and I was kind of a little familiar with that type of routine. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd say there's some familiarity with it, and that maybe things were a bit more boring because everything's closed. So yeah, getting creative and how to spend your free time. But if I had any advice, it would be I'd say be prepared to make mistakes. There's no amount of preparation that's going to have you be ready for everything. Mistakes are going to happen. You're going to be confronted with issues that are going to really test your ability to solve them. But that's where like you have to come in. You have to, if you're having an issue, you have to make sure you recognize it. And if you need to seek out, contact people, get help, communicate, talk to the people at your host university, talk to people back at and you can get help. Because at times when you're abroad, you feel pretty alone, and you don't feel like necessarily that the support structure isn't obvious all the time. You're far away, and yeah, but yeah, talk to people. Other than that, have fun, get out of your comfort zone, but don't be stupid. It's not a holiday just to party. Take advantage of the unique education opportunity you have while abroad. And yeah, that's all I think I have.
Phenomenal. Holy cow, that was absolute great advice. I don't even know if I can summarize all of the good points you have made. Thank goodness this is recorded so we can rewatch it and students can digest it in pieces, because everything you've touched on is very profound, and it's something that you learn once you've been through those struggles, and you wish you were more prepared, but there are going to be those moments where you just need to be flexible and adaptable and calm, patient, understanding of the culture, and forgiving of yourself. So
Definitely.
many congratulations on making it. You are one of the resilient ones, and congratulations on your new engagement. That's very exciting.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yay, that's big news. And I appreciate you representing Montana, by the way. I didn't overlook your hat.
Yeah. Always.
Always home, even though you're from Utah. Is that correct?
Originally from Illinois, lived in Utah for 10 years, and then moved up to Montana.
Okay.
But yeah, I prefer Montana over Utah.
Hey, we like to hear that. Have you found Bistro Montana in Munich yet?
Oh, no.
Right across from
I think I've heard of that though.
Yeah, right across from the Hauptbahnhof. It's hard to miss. There's this Bistro Montana restaurant, and I didn't make it in there, but I remember the sign. It's big and orange, and you're like, whoa, Montana. I recognize that.
Okay, that's definitely on my to-do list then to go check out.
There you go. Yeah, you better barge in and let them know you're from Montana. If I remember correctly, it's actually like Western themed. So.
Oh, wow.
Might feel like home a little bit. I don't know.
I'm looking forward to checking this out then.
Fantastic. Well, we've been so happy to have your time. I hope you rest well. It's nice and late for you. Again, for everyone listening, Nick is one of our 4 student ambassadors. He represents Germany. We also have Thailand, Spain, and Austria represented. If you would like to reach out to any of these students, they have their emails on our websites, and they have been kind enough and willing to field any questions you have, whether it's about the country, culture, host language, or the specific university they went to. Is there anything you'd like to end on in that note?
No, just like to say again, thank you for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about and hopefully inform students. And yeah, feel free if anybody has questions to reach out and email me. I'd be happy to answer your questions. But yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Nick. And for everyone else, this is the wrapping up of day 1 of our Study Abroad Fair. We do have some more events tomorrow, so please check out our Facebook page. We have our full schedule online on the Education Abroad website via and you can reach out anytime to the Education Abroad team within the Global Engagement Office via our studyabroad@umontana.edu email. So with that, I conclude this event. Thank you so much, Nick, and we'll hopefully stay in touch.
Ja, all right. See ya. Tschüss.
Tschüss, schlaf gut.
Danke.